Here's a quick little comment that I received and a quick little video to respond to it. I made a video, a very relevant video, perhaps the most relevant video I'll make all year, called Hair Loss Theory: Pornography Increases Balding Anxiety and Decreases Confidence. Someone had asked me, can you go bald without a receding hairline? That was it, end quote right there. And my answer is yes. Diffuse thinning would be the answer to that. That is when you could have a very low hairline and never recede, but your hair is so thin that it's like no matter how long your hair is, people can see through and see your scalp. So you could evenly be greatly thinning, or maybe even certain spots, either way. You know, and there are some guys who have, what was I watching? By default, I watched Despicable Me 3 with my kids yesterday. And the main bad guy, you know, has that weird like mullet, flat top thing. And it showed him as, you know, probably a guy my age now, had this perfectly clean bald spot right here. Judd Apatow is another person, and he's talked about that in a documentary I watched, where you don't really have so much hair loss or so much receding hairline, but you either have a just clean bald spot or all over thinning. And so when you're dealing with that, who cares about a receding hairline? And I think that's something, if you're gonna let hair loss worry you, that even for guys who have no issues with receding hairline, at what point in your life might you just start thinning and by default go bald that way, in theory? Even if there's no truly bald spots, if it's so thin, again, it's basically like you're bald. You know, and I was watching the video I made when I got my clean head shave a couple weeks ago, and I grew it out to basically a number 2 up here. And I was looking at the side profile of myself as she was shaving it. Right, she shaved it down, or she used the clippers to do a 0 guard from the number 2 so she could clean shave it. And I was looking, and it's like I can see it myself when my hair is a number 2 guard. When it's a certain range, like a number 2 guard to like 1.5 inches, I can tell myself, I can see that it's definitely thicker around here and it's definitely thinner up here by default, which is one of the reasons this number 0 and number 1 guard, and even the clean head shave where you can still see the outline of my hair, why it looks so good, because it just makes everything perfectly the same. And that's why for me, I feel good with it being that short or being at least 1.5 inches, because then short on the sides of the back, because it downplays the fact that my hair really is thicker around here than it is up here. So, you know, and what if in theory, I'm 50 years old, in what, 13 years, I'll be 50. And when that happens, maybe my hairline still won't move that much, but if I've got so much more thinning up here, you know, and that's something that I think a lot of us neglect, we don't think about. So many guys, because probably it is more normal to focus on a receding hairline, maybe it's more obvious, especially if you, depending on the length of your hair. But if you're gonna let hair loss worry you, then I guess you need to start worrying about diffuse thinning as well. But of course, if you know me, then you know that I say worrying about hair loss is a waste of time. Most men experience some kind of hair loss, 2/3 of men by the age of 30. So how crazy is that to worry about the thing that's probably going to happen to you? That's like worrying about death. You know, we don't spend, I think about it a lot, but I think a lot of people don't think about death, especially you. You're a lot younger than me, so naturally you've got that young and invincible thing going on in your brain. You don't think that you could die anytime soon. You know, and the older you get, the more you think about it, because the closer in theory that you are by default to dying. But it's one of those things that when you're young, you're more worried about your hairline, because that's the sign of when you go bald. But if you're the guy that doesn't have the confidence in himself and he's putting his confidence in his hair instead, then yeah, you've got another thing to worry about: diffuse thinning. It could happen to you. But if you keep watching my channel, you realize that your hair is not what people are attracted to anyway. It's this whole other stuff. But if you want to continue buying into the system that your hair is what defines you and makes you attractive, then keep going to that path of death and destruction. But Nick Shell will never lead you down that path. No, it's the path